Elena pushed through the glass doors of the towering office building, her hand cradling her swollen belly as she navigated the crowded lobby. Employees buzzed around her, clutching coffee cups and briefcases, their chatter filling the air like static. She spotted Marcus at the reception desk, his tailored suit sharp under the fluorescent lights, barking orders into his phone. He didn't see her at first, but when he did, his face twisted into a scowl. "What the hell are you doing here?" he snapped, loud enough for heads to turn. She stepped closer, her voice steady despite the stares. "We need to talk, Marcus, about the baby. About us." Her words hung in the air, but he laughed, a cold, cutting sound that echoed off the marble floors. Colleagues paused, pretending to check their watches, but their eyes locked on the scene. Marcus set his phone down with a clatter, his eyes narrowing. "Talk? You're interrupting my day for this? You're nothing but a distraction, Elena. Always have been." The lobby grew quieter, the hum of conversations dying as more people gathered. Elena's cheeks flushed, but she held her ground, her fingers tightening on her purse strap. "I'm your wife, and I'm carrying your child." She gestured to her belly, the fabric of her dress stretching taut. Marcus stepped forward, his face inches from hers, the scent of cologne overwhelming. "Wife, you're a joke, parading around like you matter. Get out before you embarrass yourself more." He raised his hand then, swift and deliberate, and slapped her across the face. The crack echoed through the high-rise, sharp as a gunshot. Elena staggered back, her palm flying to her cheek, the sting burning hot. Gasps rippled through the crowd, phones emerging from pockets to capture the moment. A woman in a pencil skirt whispered to her co-worker, "Did he just?" Marcus straightened his tie, his voice booming. "See? This is what I deal with. Unstable. Unfit." Elena blinked back tears, her body trembling as she steadied herself against a pillar. The humiliation washed over her like ice water, her dress suddenly feeling too tight, too exposed. Employees murmured, some shaking their heads, others smirking behind their hands. Marcus turned to the receptionist, ignoring her completely. "Call security. Get her out of here." But Elena didn't move, her eyes locking on his, a silent fire building in her gaze. The elevator dinged, and more staff poured out, joining the growing audience. One man chuckled, low and mocking. CEO's got his hands full. Elena's face burned, the slap mark reddening under the lights. She opened her mouth to speak, but Marcus cut her off. "You think showing up pregnant changes anything? You're replaceable. I've got better things waiting." His words sliced through the air, and a young intern dropped her folder, paper scattering like fallen leaves. Elena knelt to help, her knees weak, but the intern pulled away, whispering, "Sorry, ma'am, but you should go." The rejection hit, like another blow, the lobby's polished floors reflecting her distorted image. Marcus grabbed his briefcase, brushing past her as if she were invisible. "Don't come back, Elena, or next time it'll be worse." He strode toward the elevators, leaving her in the center of the spectacle, the crowd's pitying stares pressing down. She stood slowly, wiping her face with the back of her hand, the metallic taste of blood on her lip. Whispers grew louder, phrases like "poor thing" and "what a monster" floating around her. But one voice cut through, a maintenance worker in the corner, mopping the floor. He paused, his old eyes meeting hers for a brief second, something unspoken passing between them. Elena straightened her dress, her steps deliberate as she headed for the exit, the glass doors slamming behind her with a resounding thud. Outside, the city noise assaulted her, horns blaring and pedestrians rushing by. She leaned against the building's wall, catching her breath, the slap's echo still ringing in her ears. Back inside, Marcus had already moved on, laughing with his executives in the conference room upstairs. But Elena's phone buzzed in her purse, a text from an unknown number. "I saw what happened. You're not alone." She stared at it, her grip tightening, the first thread of something darker pulling her forward. The afternoon dragged on, and Elena found herself back at their upscale apartment. The door clicking shut behind her. She paced the living room, the city skyline mocking her through the windows. Marcus arrived home late, the door banging open, You think that little show changes anything? He sneered, tossing his keys on the counter with a clink. Elena faced him, her voice low. You hit me in front of everyone. Our child. He poured himself a drink, the ice cubes rattling. You deserved it, always nagging. And that bump doesn't make you special. Their argument escalated, voices rising like a storm. Marcus slammed his glass down, shards flying across the tile. I've got someone else who doesn't complain. Someone real. Elena's hand shook as she picked up a piece of glass, the cut on her finger drawing blood. Who? She demanded. He smirked, leaning in close. Lila, from the office. She's everything you're not. The name hit like a punch, the air thickening with betrayal. Elena backed away, her body language screaming defeat, but her eyes held a spark. Marcus laughed again, grabbing his coat. I'm meeting her now. Don't wait up. The door slammed shut, leaving silence in its wake. Elena sank to the floor, surrounded by broken glass, the shards mirroring her fractured world. But as she cleaned up, her phone buzzed again. That same unknown number. Meet me tomorrow. We need to talk about Marcus. The next morning, Elena returned to the office, determined not to cower. The lobby felt heavier, eyes following her every step. She rode the elevator up, the doors closing with a soft whoosh. Inside, a few employees avoided her gaze, one whispering, Heard about the slap. Brutal. She exited on the executive floor, heading straight for Marcus's office. He was there, with Lila perched on his desk, their laughter spilling out. Elena burst in, the door hitting the wall. This ends now. Marcus stood, his face reddening. Get out. Lila smirked, crossing her legs. Pregnant and pathetic. No wonder he chose me. The word stung, Elena's fists clenching at her sides. Colleagues gathered outside the glass walls, watching the drama unfold. Marcus advanced, his voice a growl. You embarrass me again, and I'll make sure you regret it. But Elena held up her phone, showing the text. Someone knows Marcus. About everything. His eyes widened for a split second, the first crack in his armor. Lila slid off the desk, her heels clicking. What's she talking about? Marcus shoved Elena toward the door, his push rough. Nothing. She's delusional. The hallway filled with gasps as she stumbled out, catching herself on a cubicle wall. The humiliation peaked, tears streaming down her face in front of the entire floor. But as she straightened, the old janitor appeared, pushing his cart. He handed her a handkerchief, his voice gruff. Hang in there, miss. Things turn around. She took it, nodding, the fabric soft against her skin. Marcus watched from his office, slamming his door shut with a boom that shook the frames. Before we dive deeper into Elena's journey, take a moment to subscribe for more stories of betrayal and revenge. Elena spent the rest of the day in a haze, avoiding calls from concerned friends who had seen the viral video of the slap circulating online. Comments flooded in, "What a jerk!" and "She needs to leave him." But Marcus reveled in it, texting her taunts. "See? Everyone knows you're weak." She deleted them, her resolve building like a gathering storm. That evening, at a company happy hour in the lobby bar, Marcus paraded Lila around, their hands intertwined. Elena arrived uninvited, slipping into the side door. The music pulsed, glasses clinking, but eyes turned as she approached. "Marcus, we need to settle this," she said, her voice cutting through the noise. He turned, drink in hand, spilling some on her shoe. "Settle? You're done here." Lila laughed, a high, mocking sound. Look at her, begging. Pathetic. The crowd murmured, some recording on their phones. Elena's body tensed, but she pressed on. "I'm not leaving until you admit it." Marcus set his glass down hard, the thud echoing. "Admit what?" "That I regret marrying you." The words landed like blows, the bar falling silent. Elena stepped back, the scent of spilled alcohol filling the air. But as she turned to leave, the janitor brushed past, whispering just loud enough for her to hear. "Your father will be proud of your strength." She froze, the words hanging like a revelation. Who was this man? Marcus didn't notice, too busy toasting with Lila. But Elena's exit was different this time. Head high, the door closing softly behind her, a twist unfolding in the shadows. Elena lingered in the dimly lit hallway outside the boardroom, the murmur of voices seeping through the cracked door like smoke. Her hand rested on her belly, the baby's kick a sharp reminder amid the growing ache. She had come to deliver forgotten documents, but now she pressed against the wall, eavesdropping as Marcus's laughter boomed inside. The scent of fresh coffee and polish would fill the air, mixing with a faint perfume that wasn't hers. Colleagues filed in, their footsteps muffled on the carpet, casting sidelong glances at her solitary figure. The meeting started with a bang, the door swinging shut but not fully latching. Marcus cleared his throat, his voice carrying. "All right, team, let's get to it. But first, meet Lila, my new executive assistant." Chairs scraped as people shifted, and Elena peeked through the gap, seeing Marcus's arm draped around a sleek woman in a red dress, her hair cascading like a challenge. Lila smiled, waving casually. "Pleasure to be here. Marcus has told me all about the dynamics." Snickers erupted from the table, low at first, then building. One executive, Tom, leaned back with a grin. "Dynamics? You mean how the boss handles his home life?" Marcus chuckled, slapping the table. "Let's just say, some people don't know when to quit." Elena's fingers dug into the doorframe, her nails biting wood, as the room filled with knowing looks. Another voice piped up, Sarah from marketing. "Heard about the lobby incident. Slapping a pregnant wife? Bold move, boss." The laughter swelled, glasses clinking in a mock toast. Elena's face heated, her body rigid against the wall, the hallway lights flickering overhead. She stepped back, but her heel caught on the carpet, sending a soft thud echoing. Inside, the talk continued. "Yeah, Elena's been a mess," Marcus said, his tone dripping disdain. "Shows up unannounced, causes scenes. Lila here keeps things smooth." Lila's voice cut in, sugary sharp. "Ah, poor thing. Pregnancy hormones, right? Must be tough being sidelined." Elena pressed her ear closer, the words stabbing like needles. The boardroom door creaked open slightly more, and she caught sight of charts on the screen, but all eyes were on Marcus and Lila, their proximity screaming intimacy. Tom joked again. "So, is this assistant gig full-time? Or does it come with benefits?" The room exploded in guffaws, someone spilling coffee in the mirth, the dark liquid staining the table like spilled secrets. She couldn't tear herself away, her breaths coming short, the hallway suddenly too narrow. A passing intern spotted her, eyes widening. "Mrs. Hale? You okay?" Elena waved him off, but her voice cracked. "Just waiting." He hurried past, whispering into his phone, no doubt spreading the word. Back inside, Marcus steered the conversation. "Enough chit-chat. But yeah, Lila's an upgrade. No drama, just results." Lila leaned in, her hand on his shoulder. "And no baggage." The insults piled on, each one twisting the knife. Elena's hands trembled, clutching the documents that now felt useless in her grip. She turned to leave, but the door burst open, an executive stepping out for a break. He nearly collided with her, his surprise turning to pity. "Elena? Didn't see you there." Meeting's intense today." She nodded, forcing a smile, but her lips quivered. "I heard." He slipped back in, and the door shut with a click, but not before more laughter escaped. Elena retreated to the break room, the fluorescent hum buzzing her ears. She poured water with shaking hands, the cup overflowing onto the counter. Footsteps approached. Sarah from the meeting. "Hey, I saw you out there." "Rough, huh?" Marcus is on a roll with his new toy. Elena set the cup down hard, water splashing. "Toy? That's my husband." Sarah shrugged, grabbing a snack. "Everyone knows. The affair's office gossip. Sorry, but you deserve better." The words hung, Elena's posture slumping as Sarah left, the door swinging shut. Alone, Elena wiped the spill, her reflection in the puddle, showing a woman on the edge. But the janitor entered then, his mop bucket rattling. He nodded at her, silent, but his eyes lingered on her belly, The day wore on, Elena avoiding the boardroom, but hearing echoes of the meeting in every conversation. In the cafeteria, whispers followed her tray. Heard Marcus introduce his mistress officially. Yeah, right in front of everyone. Elena must be crushed. She sat alone, fork pushing food around, the clatter of utensils amplifying her isolation. A group nearby laughed, one mimicking Marcus's voice. Upgrade, he said. Brutal. Elena stood abruptly, her chair scraping loud, drawing stares. She dumped her tray, the crash of plates turning heads. Back at her desk in the lower offices, demoted after marriage, she fielded calls, but her mind replayed the boardroom barbs. Her phone buzzed, a message from an anonymous sender. They laughed at you, but laughter fades. Action lasts. She deleted it, but her grip tightened, veins visible on her hands. Later, in the parking garage, Elena waited for a ride, the concrete echoing with distant engines. Marcus emerged with Lila, their footsteps sinking. They didn't see her at first, locked in a kiss against his car, the smack of lips audible. Elena stepped out from the shadows. Marcus. He pulled away, startled, wiping his mouth. What now? Stalking me? Lila crossed her arms, smirking. This is getting old. Elena, go home to your empty bed. Elena advanced, her voice steady. I heard everything in that meeting. Your upgrade. Marcus laughed, unlocking his car with a beep. Good. Now you know. Leave us alone. He shoved past her, his shoulder bumping hers hard enough to make her stumble against a pillar. The pain shot through her arm, but she righted herself, watching them drive off, exhaust fumes choking the air. Humiliation burned, tears blurring the taillights. But as she turned, the janitor appeared from the service entrance, his uniform stained. He picked up a drop-key fob she hadn't noticed, handing it to her. Careful, miss. Keys open doors. And secrets. Elena took it, puzzled, but nodded. The encounter lingered as she drove home, the city lights streaking by. At the apartment, she found Marcus's things scattered, a note on the counter. Staying with Lila tonight. Don't call. She crumpled it, throwing it against the wall with a soft thud. The phone rang, her mother, voice concerned. I saw the video online. And now this affair talk? Leave him, Elena. She hung up, pacing, the floor creaking under her weight. Neighbors banged on the wall, yelling for quiet. The isolation deepened, but she grabbed her coat, heading out. At a nearby cafe, she sat alone, stirring coffee that grew cold. A stranger approached, but it was a janitor out of uniform, sitting uninvited. You don't know me, but I know you. Your mother was my daughter. Elena's eyes widened, spoon clattering to the saucer. What? He leaned in, voice low. I'm your grandfather, disguised as a janitor to watch over you. Marcus will pay. The revelation hit like a wave, the cafe's chatter fading. She gripped the table, body leaning forward. Prove it. He slid a photo across, old and worn, her as a child with him, smiling. The pieces clicked, tension coiling tighter. Elena stood, chair pushing back. Then help me. He nodded, standing too. We start tomorrow. His empire crumbles. As they parted, the door chimed shut, leaving her in the night air, a plan forming amid the betrayal's ruins, revenge whispering closer. Elena fled down the office corridor, her heels clicking unevenly on the tile as Marcus's latest tirade echoed behind her. He had cornered her in the copy room, his voice booming through the thin walls. Your liability, Elena. Showing up here, swollen and whining, it's pathetic. Colleagues had paused their work, printers humming to a stop as his insults flew. She had backed away, hands protecting her belly, but he advanced, knocking a stack of papers to the floor with a sweep of his arm. The sheets scattered like accusations, some sticking to her shoes. Now, in the empty break room, she slumped against a vending machine. Its low was the only sound besides her ragged breaths. Tears streamed down her face, smearing mascara as she wiped them with the sleeve of her blouse. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting harsh shadows on the linoleum. Footsteps approached, slow and deliberate. The janitor, pushing his mop bucket, the wheels squeaking like a warning. He stopped at the doorway, his gray uniform blending with the walls, eyes fixed on her huddled form. Elena straightened slightly, her body tensing as he entered, the scent of pine cleaner wafting in. He didn't speak, just pulled a clean tissue from his pocket and extended it toward her. She took it, her fingers brushing his, rough and calloused. "Thanks," she muttered, dabbing her eyes, the paper crumpling in her grip. He nodded once, then dipped the mop into the bucket, water sloshing, and began swabbing the floor in slow arcs. His gaze lingered on her, unspoken fury tightening his jaw, but he said nothing. The silence stretched, broken only by the wet slap of the mop against the tile. Elena leaned on the counter, her posture defeated, shoulders slumping as another sob escaped. Outside, voices carried from a hallway. Co-workers gossiping. Heard Marcus tore into her again, called her a burden. Laughter followed, sharp and cutting, like glass underfoot. Elena flinched, her hand flying to her mouth. But the janitor paused his mopping, his eyes narrowing at the door. He set the mop aside with a clatter, the handle banging against the bucket. Moving to the fridge, he pulled out a bottle of water, unscrewing the cap with a twist that echoed. He handed it to her, his movements deliberate, almost protective. Elena accepted it, sipping slowly, the cool liquid soothing her throat. "You see a lot around here, don't you?" she said, her voice hoarse. He grunted, resuming his work, but his strokes grew firmer, water splashing onto the edges. A group of employees burst in then, chatting loudly, their coffee mugs steaming. They froze at the sight of Elena, her red eyes and disheveled hair telling the story. One woman from accounting smirked. "Rough day, Mrs. CEO. Marcus on the warpath again." The others chuckled, grabbing snacks from the cabinet, wrappers crinkling. Elena set the bottle down hard, the thud drawing their attention. "Mind your own business," she snapped, but her voice wavered. The woman laughed, tossing her hair. "Hey, we're just saying what everyone thinks. With Lila around, you're yesterday's news." They filed out, leaving snickers in their wake, the door swinging shut with a bang. Elena's fists clenched, nails digging into palms, as the humiliation settled like dust. The janitor watched it all, his mop stilling again, a vein pulsing in his neck. He stepped closer, his voice finally breaking the quiet, low and gravelly. "They don't know strength when they see it." Elena looked up, surprised, her body shifting toward him. "What do you mean?" He wiped his hands on a rag, the fabric rasping. "I've cleaned these floors for months, seen the slaps, the shouts. You endure." She nodded, wiping fresh tears, the tissue now soaked. But footsteps echoed again. Marcus this time, storming in with Lila trailing behind. "Elena, what are you still doing here?" he bellowed, his tie askew, cologne heavy in the air. Lila leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. Babysitting the janitor now? How low? Marcus advanced, grabbing Elena's arm, his grip tight. "I told you to leave. You're embarrassing me in front of the staff." She yanked free, stumbling back, her hip bumping the table with a jolt. The janitor stepped forward, his body blocking subtly, mop handle in hand like a staff. "Sir, perhaps he's up," he said, voice steady. Marcus whirled on him. "You? Stay out of it, old man. Clean the mess and shut up." He shoved the janitor's shoulder, sending the bucket tipping, water spilling across the floor in a dark puddle. Lila giggled, covering her mouth. "Look at that, another spill, just like her tears." Elena knelt to help, but Marcus pulled her up roughly. "Don't. Let him do his job. You're coming with me." He dragged her toward the door, her protests muffled. The janitor righted the bucket with a splash, his eyes locked on Elena's, a silent promise flashing. As Marcus hauled her out, slamming the door behind them, the break room fell quiet again, but the janitor muttered under his breath, "Not much longer." He mopped up the spill, the water swirling like gathering storm clouds. Later that afternoon, Elena escaped to the rooftop terrace, wind whipping her hair, the city sprawled below a blur. She gripped the railing, knuckles white, as the door creaked open. The janitor appeared, carrying a toolkit, his steps measured. "Needed fresh air?" he asked, setting the box down with a clunk. She turned, wind stinging her eyes. Away from him. From all of it. He nodded, leaning on the rail beside her, the metal cold under his hands. They stood in silence, traffic horns faint below. Then he spoke. "I knew your mother. Long ago." Elena's body tensed, turning to face him. "What?" He pulled a locket from his pocket, clicking it open to reveal a photo, her as a baby, with a man who looked just like him. "I'm your father, Elena, billionaire in hiding. Disguise protect you." The wind howled, but her gas cut through it, hands flying to her mouth. She stepped back, the revelation shaking her stance. "Why now?" He closed the locket with a snap. "Saw enough. Marcus hurts you. I end it." Elena's posture straightened, wind tousling her dress. "Then let's." He nodded, toolkit clattering as he picked it up. "Plan starts tonight." They descended together, the elevator dinging, doors closing on their alliance, tension mounting toward the fall. But as they parted in the lobby, Marcus spotted them from across the room, his eyes narrowing. He strode over, voice rising. "Consorted with the help? Desperate." Elena faced him, chin up. "Leave us." He laughed, but the janitor, her father, stepped between, his presence looming. "Careful, boy. Shadows hide teeth." Marcus shoved past, but doubt flickered in his eyes, the first crack widening. Elena watched him go, her strides purposeful now, the rooftop wind still echoing in her ears. At home that night, she packed a bag, door locking with click. The phone rang, anonymous. "Meet at dawn. We strike." She hung up, bag thudding to the floor, revenge's shadow lengthening. Elena adjusted her dress in the foyer of the grand family estate, the chandelier's light casting glittering patterns on the marble floor. Relatives milled about, their voices a low hum, silverware clinking against plates in the dining room beyond. She had arrived early, hoping for a quiet moment, but Marcus pulled up in his sleek car, tires crunching on the gravel driveway. He stepped out, straightening his cufflinks, his eyes scanning her figure with disdain. "You look bloated. Try not to embarrass me tonight." She smoothed her hands over her belly, the fabric pulling tight, but said nothing, following him inside where aunts and uncles greeted them with forced smiles. The dining table stretched long, covered in white linen and flickering candles, the aroma of roasted meat and herbs filling the air. Elena took her seat beside Marcus, her chair scraping against the hardwood. Conversations flowed, laughter bubbling up as wine glasses were filled with a rich pour. Cousin Emily leaned across, her voice bright. "Elena, you glow. How's the pregnancy?" Elena opened her mouth to respond, but Marcus cut in, his tone sharp. "She's managing." "Barely." Heads turned, forks pausing midair. He raised his glass, the red wine swirling, and cleared his throat for attention. "While we're all here, let's toast the successes. Mine mostly." Chuckles rippled around the table. But he continued, eyes locking on Elena, unlike some, who drag everyone down with their failures. Gas escaped, Uncle Robert setting his napkin down with a soft thud. Elena's hands gripped the tablecloth, knuckles whitening, as relatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Marcus leaned back, spilling a bit of wine from his glass onto the table, the droplets staining the linen like blood. "Take Elena here. Can't even handle simple things without causing scenes." He gestured wildly, his arm knocking the bottle, and more wine splashed across Elena's dress, soaking the fabric in a dark bloom. She jumped up, chair toppling backward with a crash, the cold liquid seeping through to her skin. "Marcus," she exclaimed, dabbing at the stain with her napkin, but it spread, the scent of fermented grapes overpowering. Laughter erupted from a few cousins, quickly stifled, while Aunt Lydia whispered, "Oh, dear." Marcus smirked, pulling out his phone as it buzzed on the table. He read the text openly, his smile widening. "Ah, from Lila. She says hi, everyone." He held up the screen, the message visible. "Miss you already. Dinner with the ball and chain." Relatives leaned in, eyes widening, murmurs spreading like wildfire. Elena stood there, dress dripping, her body rigid as she righted her chair with trembling hands. The table fell into awkward silence, broken by Marcus's chuckle. See? This is what I deal with. Clumsy, emotional wrecks. He poured himself more wine, the glug echoing, and passed the bottle carelessly, nearly spilling again. Elena sat back down, the wet fabric clinging uncomfortably, her posture slouched, under the weight of stares. Cousin Emily avoided her gaze, fiddling with her fork, while Uncle Robert cleared his throat. Marcus, that's enough. But Marcus waved him off. Phone buzzing again. Another text from Lila, this one with a heart emoji. Elena reached for her water glass, her hand shaking, the ice cubes rattling. Stop this, she said, voice low but firm. Marcus laughed louder, slamming his palm on the table, dishes jumping. Stop? You're the one ruining the night. Always have been. Relatives exchanged glances, some whispering behind hands. The word affair and poor Elena floating in the air. She pushed her plate away. Food untouched, the clatter drawing more attention. Dessert arrived, plates of chocolate cake distributed with soft clinks. But the mood soured. Marcus forked into a slice, crumbs falling, and announced to the room, by the way, Elena's been demoted at work. My decision, too unreliable. Gasps rang out again, Aunt Lydia dropping her spoon with a ting. Elena's face flushed, her body leaning forward. That's not true. But he overrode her, voice booming. It is, and with the baby coming, she'll be even more useless. He checked his phone once more, typing back to Lila, the screen glow illuminating his grin. The humiliation peaked as relatives began to leave the table, chairs scraping in haste. One cousin patted Elena's shoulder awkwardly. Hang in there. But others avoided her, clustering around Marcus, their laughter forced. Elena stood, excusing herself to the bathroom, the door clicking shut behind her. She splashed water on her face, the mirror reflecting her stained dress and red eyes. Footsteps outside, Marcus, banging on the door. Hurry up. Don't make a scene. She emerged, chin up, but he grabbed her arm, pulling her back to the foyer. We're leaving. You've embarrassed us enough. Relatives watched from the doorway, whispers intensifying. In the car, silence hung heavy, the engine humming as they drove. Marcus broke it first. Lila's better company anyway. Elena stared out the window, hands folded over her belly, body still. At home, she changed out of the ruined dress, fabric hitting the laundry bin with a wet slap. Marcus stormed in, loosening his tie. That was a disaster because of you. She faced him, voice steady. No, because of your lies. Your texts. He advanced, finger jabbing the air. My life, my choices. Deal with it. The argument escalated, voices rising, until he slammed out the door, keys jingling. Alone, Elena paced the living room, floorboards creaking. Her phone buzzed. The janitor, her father, saw the dinner post online. Relatives talking. Time to act. She replied quickly, fingers flying. Yes, make him pay. He responded, tomorrow, I reveal assets. His company crumbles. She set the phone down, a whispered vow escaping her lips as she touched her belly. For us. But later that night, a knock at the door startled her. She opened it to find a delivery. Anonymous, a folder of documents. Inside, proof of Marcus's embezzlement, pages rustling. Her hand steadied, flipping through, a smile breaking for the first time. The folder closed with a snap, the twist sealing his fate, revenge drawing nearer in the quiet house. Elena jabbed the elevator button repeatedly, the ding echoing in the empty office lobby as rain pelted the windows outside. She had stayed late, poring over files in a quiet cubicle, her belly aching from the day's strain. The door slid open with a groan, and she stepped in, pressing the ground floor button. But footsteps hurried behind her, Marcus and Lila, laughing, arms linked. They piled in just as the doors closed, the space shrinking instantly. Marcus hit the button for the garage, his cologne mixing with Lila's floral perfume, thick in the confined air. The elevator lurched downward, lights humming overhead. Elena shifted to the corner, her back against the cool metal wall, hands folding over her dress. Marcus noticed her then, his laughter cutting short. "Elena, what are you doing here this late? Stalking us." Lila smirked, leaning into him, her heels clicking as she adjusted her stance. Elena straightened, her voice sharp. "Working. Unlike you too, sneaking around." The car jolted slightly, buttons glowing red. Marcus snorted, pressing closer to Lila. "Sneaking? This is my building. You're the intruder." The elevator slowed between floors, a faint creak sounding from above. Lila tossed her hair, eyes narrowing, pregnant and prying. How desperate. Elena's fists clenched at her sides, nails biting skin as the lights flickered once. "Desperate? You're the one stealing a married man." Marcus slammed his hand against the wall, the bang reverberating. "Married? That was a mistake. You're a chain around my neck." The argument ignited, voices bouncing off the panels. Lila pointed at Elena's belly. "That kid? Probably not even his. Who knows what you've been up to?" Elena lunged forward a step, her body trembling. "How dare you?" Marcus grabbed her arm, twisting it back. "Back off. You're unhinged." The elevator jerked to a stop, door stuck, the emergency light blinking on with a buzz. Sweat beaded on Elena's forehead, the air growing stuffy, trapped with their accusations. Above, in the maintenance shaft, the janitor, her father, crouched silently, tools clinking softly as he listened to the panel. He had jammed the mechanism deliberately, his breath steady, ears tuned to the chaos below. Down in the car, Marcus released Elena's arm with a shove, sending her stumbling against the doors. "See? Violent. No wonder I chose Lila." Lila laughed, a high-pitched cackle. "She's trash. Look at her, sweating, bloated. Pathetic." Elena righted herself, rubbing her arm, the bruise already forming under her sleeve. The lights dimmed further, emergency bell ringing faintly as Marcus punched the alarm button. "This is your fault, Elena. Always causing jams." She faced him, posture rigid. "My fault? You're the one with secrets. Embezzling from your own company." His eyes widened, face paling under the red glow. "What? Lies." But Lila stepped back, her body language shifting. "Wait, embezzling? Marcus." He whirled on her. "Shut up. She's bluffing." Elena pressed on, her voice rising. "I have proof. Folders delivered. You're stealing to fund your little escapes with her." The elevator shook again, a metallic groan from above where her father twisted a wrench, escalating the trap. Marcus lunged, grabbing Elena by the shoulders, shaking her. "Who told you? That old janitor? He's nothing." She wrenched free, her back hitting the wall with a thud. "Nothing? He's more than you know." Lila's phone buzzed in her purse, but she ignored it, eyes darting. "This is crazy. Let me out." The confined space amplified every word, breaths coming heavy. Marcus pounded on the doors, fists thudding. "Help! We're stuck." But no response came, only the faint scrape from the shaft above. Elena leaned against the panel, her hands flat, sensing her father's presence. "Admit it, Marcus. The affairs, the money, the abuse." He turned, spit flying with his words. "Admit? You're worthless. I should have left you sooner." Lila backed into the corner, her heels scraping. "Stop. This is humiliating." Humiliation thickened the air, Elena's dress clinging with sweat, her body swaying as the car rocked. Humiliating? Try being slapped in public, betrayed at dinners. Marcus laughed bitterly, but his hands shook. "You deserved it. Weak. Always weak." Above, her father loosened another bolt, the elevator dropping an inch with a jolt, screams escaping all three. Lila clutched Marcus. "Do something." He pried at the doors, fingers slipping. "Damn it!" Elena stood firm, her stance widening. "Your empire's crumbling. Investors know now." Marcus froze, turning slowly. "What did you do?" She met his gaze. "Exposed you. Like you expose me. The lights flickered wildly, buttons jamming further. Lila whimpered, sliding down the wall. I didn't sign up for this. Marcus kicked the doors, the boom echoing. You'll pay Elena. I'll ruin you. But a voice crackled from the intercom, distorted. Maintenance here. Hold tight. It was her father, disguised tone. The panel above creaked open slightly, his eyes peering down unseen. Elena glanced up subtly, her body relaxing a fraction. Marcus ran it on. This baby's not mine. Test it. Elena's slap came swift, palm connecting with his cheek, the crack sharp. He reeled back, hand to face. You bitch. Lila gasped, covering her mouth. The elevator lurched again, descending slowly now, gears grinding. Secrets spilled faster, Marcus admitting bribes, Lila confessing stage meetings. It was all for the money, she blurted. Elena recorded it all on her phone, pulled from her pocket with steady hands. Got it. The doors finally pried open on the ground floor, security rushing in, flashlights beaming. Marcus bolted out, shoving past, but Elena followed, her steps measured. Lila trailed, sobbing. I'm done with you. She slapped Marcus too, the sound echoing in the lobby. He stumbled, face red, as employees gathered, phones out. The janitor emerged from the stairs, toolkit in hand, nodding at Elena. All fixed. But his wink said more. Marcus fled to his car, tires screeching, leaving chaos behind. Elena stood in the lobby, security questioning her, but she waved them off. Her father approached, whispering, evidence sent aboard, his end nears. She nodded, body straightening. Outside rain poured, but she walked into it, dress soaking, a twist unfolding. Anonymous tips flooding in, his lies unraveling further, revenge's grip tightening. Elena smoothed the folds of her elegant black gown in the ballroom's grand entrance, the fabric whispering against her skin as chandeliers cast golden light over the crowd. The company gala buzzed with energy, orchestral music swelling from the stage, glasses clinking in toasts. She had arrived alone, her invitation a formality from Marcus, who now mingled across the room, his tuxedo sharp, arm linked with Lila's. Guests in designer suits and shimmering dresses swirled around, their laughter a constant hum. But eyes darted toward Elena, whispers following her like shadows. She held her head high, steps measured, but her hands trembled slightly on her clutch. Marcus spotted her near the appetizer table, his smile fading into a sneer. He detached from a group of executives, striding over with Lila in tow, her red dress clinging like a second skin. You actually showed, he said, voice loud enough for nearby guests to turn. Elena set down a canopy plate with a soft clink. It's our company event. I'm still your wife. Lila laughed, a tinkling sound that drew more stares. Wife? More like a relic. Look at you, waddling in that dress. The music shifted to a slow waltz. Couples drifting to the dance floor, shoes tapping rhythmically. Marcus extended his hand to Lila. Shall we? She nodded, glancing back at Elena with a smirk. Don't wait up, dear. They swept away, leaving Elena standing alone, the scent of perfumes and polish would thickening the air. Guests murmured, one woman in pearls whispering to her companion. Poor thing, abandoned at her own gala. Elena's posture stiffened, her fingers twisting the napkin in her lap, as she found a seat at an empty table. The dance floor filled, bodies swaying under the lights, but Marcus and Lila commanded attention, his hand low on her back, their steps intimate. He spun her dramatically, her laughter ringing out, heads turning. Elena watched from her chair, the wood creaking as she shifted, her belly pressing against the table's edge. A waiter approached, offering champagne, but she waved him off, water glass condensation dripping onto her fingers. Nearby tables filled with colleagues, their conversations laced with pity. Heard about the slap, and now this, parading the mistress. Marcus dipped Lila low, their faces close, whispers exchanged that prompted her giggle. He glanced toward Elena's table, his eyes mocking, then pulled Lila closer for a kiss on the cheek, the smack audible over the music. Snickers erupted from surrounding guests. phone subtly raised to capture the moment. Elena's chair scraped as she stood, intending to leave, but a group blocked her path, one man chuckling. "Tough night, Mrs. Hale? Maybe sit this one out." She pushed past, her gown rustling, heat rising in her cheeks. The orchestra paused, applause rippling through the room, but Marcus and Lila remained on the floor, bowing playfully to cheers. He waved off admirers, steering Lila back toward Elena's table. Their approach like a storm front. "Enjoying the show?" Marcus asked, pulling out a chair for Lila with a flourish. Elena remained standing, her voice steady. "This is humiliating. For all of us." Lila crossed her legs, sipping from a flute. "Speak for yourself." "I'm having a blast." Marcus laughed, slamming his hand on the table, utensils jumping. "Humiliating? You're the joke here. Elena, pregnant and alone." Guests nearby leaned in, conversations halting, the ballroom's energy shifting to the spectacle. Elena's hands balled into fists at her sides, nails digging into palms. "End this, Marcus. Now." He stood, towering over her. "End it? I'm just getting started." He grabbed Lila's hand again, pulling her back to the dance floor amid whoops from the crowd. Elena sank back into her chair, the isolation crushing, as servers cleared plates around her with sympathetic glances. The music resumed, faster now, but she stared at her lap, the gown's fabric bunching under her grip. Then a shadow fell over the table. The janitor, still in his gray uniform, pushing a discreet cart through the side entrance. He paused near her, his eyes scanning the room, body language alert. Elena looked up, surprised. "What are you doing here?" He set down a folded napkin, his voice low. "Finishing what we started." Marcus, spotting him from the floor, broke away from Lila mid-twirl, striding over with fury. The help doesn't belong at the gala. Get out." The janitor straightened, his posture changing, shedding the hunched demeanor like an old skin. He tugged at his uniform collar, buttons popping open to reveal a crisp tuxedo shirt beneath. Gasps spread as he ripped off the gray jacket, tossing it aside with a thud, standing tall in tailored black pants and polished shoes. "I'm not the help," he declared, voice booming, drawing every eye in the ballroom. Marcus froze, face draining of color. "What the hell?" Elena rose slowly, her body aligning beside him, as whispers exploded. "That's Victor Langston, the billionaire who vanished years ago." Cameras flashed, guests crowding closer. The janitor, Victor, turned to the room. "I'm Elena's father, disguised to watch over her, and to witness this man's cruelty." Marcus backed away, bumping into a table, glasses toppled with crashes. "Lies! Security." But Victor advanced, pulling document from his pocket, pages fluttering. "Proof of your embezzlement, abuse, affairs. All here." Lila slipped away into the crowd, her heels clicking frantically. Elena stepped forward, her stance firm. "You humiliated me for the last time." Marcus lunged, grabbing Victor's arm. "You're nothing. A fake." But Victor shook him off easily, his grip iron. "Nothing? I own half this company." Silently, "Your board knows now." Shock rippled through the gala, music halting abruptly, the conductor's baton dropping. Guests murmured, phones recording, as Marcus's face twisted in rage. "Elena, you set this up." She met his gaze, unblinking. "You set yourself up." Victor signaled to waiting associates, who emerged from the edges, briefcases in hand. "Arrest warrants incoming. Your reign ends tonight." Marcus shoved through the crowd, but security, now loyal to Victor, blocked his path, handcuffs clicking. Lila screamed from the doorway, fleeing into the night. Elena watched, her body relaxing for first time, as flashes blinded the room. Victor placed a hand on her shoulder. "It's over." But as police sirens wailed outside, a final text buzzed on Marcus's dropped phone, anonymous. "More evidence coming. You're finished." The twist sealed, power shifting irreversibly, revenge's fire fully ignited. Elena strode into the boardroom on the top floor, the heavy oak doors swinging shut behind her with a resounding thud that silenced the murmurs inside. Sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, casting long shadows across the polished mahogany table, where executives sat rigidly, their ties loosened and faces pale. Marcus occupied the head chair, his suit rumpled from a sleepless night, fingers drumming erratically on a stack of papers. He looked up as she entered, his eyes narrowing, but his posture slumped when Victor, her father, no longer in disguise, followed, flanked by lawyers in sharp suits, briefcases snapping open with clicks. The room smelled of stale coffee and tension, mugs scattered like abandoned props. Victor took a seat opposite Marcus, his presence commanding, as he slid a thick dossier across the table, pages fanning out. Gentlemen, ladies, the evidence is clear. Embezzlement, fraud, abuse. Marcus Hale's tenure ends today. Executives shifted in their chairs, leather creaking, some avoiding Marcus's gaze, while others nodded gravely. Elena stood at the end of the table, her hands resting on the back of a chair, body steady despite the baby's insistent kicks. Marcus shoved the dossier away. Papers scattered into the floor with a flutter. This is a setup? Elena's bitter lies. His voice cracked, echoing off the walls, but Victor leaned forward, his finger jabbing the air. Bitter? You slapped my daughter in public, paraded your mistress, stole from the company I secretly funded. Flashes from reporters' cameras seeped under the door, the media frenzy building outside, voices shouting questions through the glass. Marcus stood abruptly, chair toppling backward with a crash. You? Funded? Prove it. Victor's lawyers distributed folders, the rustle of paper filling the silence. One executive, Tom, flipped through, his brows furrowing. These transfers millions siphoned to personal accounts. Murmurs erupted, heads shaking, as another board member slammed her folder shut, and the affair caught on gala footage. Disgraceful. Marcus paced, his footsteps heavy on the carpet, sweat beading on his forehead. It's fabricated. Elena orchestrated this with her janitor father. He spat the word, but laughter rippled, nervous, cutting from the table. Elena stepped forward, her voice clear. Fabricated? Like your promises? Your vows? She placed her phone on the table, hitting play on a recording. The elevator clash, his confession spilling out in tinny audio. Admit it, Marcus. The affairs, the money, the abuse. The room fell silent, the playback echoing his own words. You're worthless. I should have left you sooner. Faces turned to him, expressions hardening as Tom stood. This is damning. We vote now. Marcus lunged the phone, but Victor blocked him, arm outstretched. Sit, or security escorts you. Defeated, Marcus collapsed into his chair. Hands covered his face, body shaking. Outside, chants grew louder, protesters with signs reading "Justice for Elena" banging on windows. Flashes intensified, cameras pressing against the glass. Lila burst in then, door banging open, her makeup smudged. Marcus, they froze my accounts. Because of you. She advanced, slapping a sheaf of papers onto the table. Your gifts, I'll trace back. I'm ruined. Marcus reached for her, but she recoiled, heels scraping. Don't touch me. You promised luxury, not this. Executives watched, some smirking, as Lila turned to Elena. This is your fault. Elena met her gaze, unyielding. No, his choices. Yours too. Lila stormed out, door slamming, her sobs echoing down the hall. The vote commenced, hands raising one by one, the count swift, all in favor of termination. Marcus's pleas fell flat, voice rising. Wait, I'd built this company. But Victor shook his head. With my money, hidden investments. You're out. Security entered, badges glinting, cuffing Marcus's wrists with metallic clicks. He struggled, knocking over a water pitcher, liquid spilling across the table like his crumbling empire. Elena, tell them, we can fix this. She approached, her steps deliberate, leaning in close. Fix? After the slaps? The shames, the betrayals? No. Cameras flashed through the open door now. Reporters surging in, microphones thrusting. Mr. Hale, comment on the charges? He twisted away, face contorted, as guards dragged him toward the exit. This isn't over. But his voice weakened, body sagging against their hold. Victor addressed the board, his tone firm. I assume control. Reform start now. Applause broke out. Tentative at first, then building. Elena watched Marcus disappear down the corridor, shouts of traitor following him. Her father turned to her, placing a hand on her shoulder. Redemption, daughter, for you and the child. She nodded, body relaxing, as executives approached with congratulations, hands shaking hers. Outside, in the lobby, chaos reigned. Police cars with sirens blaring, crowds cheering as Marcus was loaded into a van, doors clanging shut. Elena emerged, sunlight hitting her face, reporters swarming. How does it feel? One asked. She paused, wind tousling her hair. Free. Victor joined her, waving to the crowd, his true identity now public, banners unfurling in support. Back home that evening, Elena unpacked boxes in a new apartment, the door locking with a secure click. Her phone buzzed news alerts. CEO arrested, billionaire father reveals all. She set it down, hands on her belly, as movers carried in furniture, thuds echoing. A knock came. Her father, carrying a gift wrapped in silver paper. For the baby, and our new start. She unwrapped it, a family heirloom necklace clinking softly. They sat on the couch, the city lights twinkling outside. He begged in custody, Victor said. Offered deals. All denied. Elena leaned back, posture easing. Good. Let him rot. The phone rang, anonymous, but she answered. A lawyer's voice. Divorce finalized. Assets yours. She hung up, a smile breaking, as her father raised a glass in toast, clinking against hers. The night deepened, but peace settled. Shattered trust rebuilt in quiet actions. Marcus's pleas echoed from jail cells, unheard, his downfall complete. Elena stood at the window, watching the world move on, her stance tall, redemption's light finally shining through the cracks.